How is it going, guys? We're back with another wonderful episode, and this one is another one by Not Just Bikes. I really enjoy doing their stuff, and let's see, the living, the lively and livable neighborhoods that are illegal in most of North America. I don't exactly know how, and like a neighborhood could be illegal. It's kind of beyond me as far as that goes, but we're gonna find out right now. Check this out.
One of the things I really like about Amsterdam is the shops and restaurants that are dotted throughout residential areas in the city. These patios and local
Uh,
shops provide a lot of interesting destinations that are always within a very short walk or bicycle ride. This is different from a high street or main street, where the shops are all along one major street. Cities in the Netherlands, like most countries, have high streets too, but these retail pockets bring an
those are
interesting
crazy
character and
though.
liveliness to residential neighborhoods, and are a more quiet and enjoyable environment to sit in or shop in than along a busy main street.
Okay, yeah.
In many ways, these pockets of retail and restaurants remind me of the alleyways of Taipei, which were my favorite part of the city, as they provided liveliness while also making
Is this like China or something right here? See, this is crazy that we don't have this here in America.
what would otherwise be a dark alley into a location that was inviting and interesting.
Right, yeah.
So these pockets of shops and restaurants are in no way unique to the Netherlands. But what is interesting is that they are illegal to build in almost all of the US and Canada.
That's what? How is it illegal?
North American cities follow an approach called Euclidean zoning. If you've ever played
Yep.
SimCity or City Skylines, this will be
It's
familiar to
just
you.
it looks like a damn like a checkered shirt or something, guys. Just straight up like just straight up grid pattern.
Euclidean zoning will come up in future videos because it's a big source of problems with North American city design, but I'm
Yeah,
not
it
going to go
is.
into too much detail of the history here. If you want to learn more, the exceptional urban planning channel City Beautiful has made some good quality videos about zoning in US cities. I'll put links below. But for
Go
our
check
purposes
out
now,
their stuff,
here's the quick
guys.
summary. During the Industrial Revolution, cities were pretty horrible places. Someone could literally open a steel mill in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and this led to horrible pollution and a terrible living environment.
Yep.
So zoning was introduced to separate incompatible land uses. This was probably the single most significant contribution that urban planners made to public health in the history of the profession, and likely saved millions of lives, which is why almost every country has some kind of zoning ordinances.
I mean, it makes sense. You don't want to sit there and have a shit factory next to your house.
Unfortunately, some countries took this a
I
step too
mean,
far and decided that absolutely everything should be separated from absolutely everything else. This means that in most North American cities, if an
yeah.
area is zoned as residential, then literally nothing else can be built in that area.
Right, yeah, it
Here's a
sucks.
typical zoning map, in this case of my hometown of London in Canada. It is
There's a London, Canada? Oh, I not know that.
illegal to open a shop or restaurant anywhere within the yellow shaded area. Now, admittedly, it is important to keep a residential area quiet and comfortable to live in, and that's not always compatible with other uses. In the Netherlands, there are sometimes issues with noise, crowds, garbage, and other problems related to living right next to or above a commercial property.
But
But like all things in city planning, there is a balance to be.
that's crazy. It's just pavement, or well, I guess bricks, but it's just all the way across. Like we don't have that here. It's just, I mean, I guess we do in the bigger cities. It just doesn't look like that though.
Achieved. Modern North American planning takes a very extremist view that there is no value to having shops and restaurants within a residential neighborhood. But North American zoning is extremist in general. For example, if a neighborhood is zoned R1
This has been
for
never
single
happened.
family homes, then nothing else, not even townhouses or apartments, can exist there.
Yeah,
I'll talk about that in
sucks.
more detail in the future, but in the meantime, you can watch the City Beautiful video, The Case Against Single Family Zoning.
Well, there you
What's
go,
interesting to
guys.
me is that this was not always the case. In our former neighborhood in Toronto, built about 100 years ago, there were several commercial buildings built within the neighborhood. These areas have been grandfathered into the zoning code and
What
are
is
some of the most
this?
desirable and expensive neighborhoods in the whole city.
What is that, guys? Whoops.
But despite commercial buildings built within the neighborhood, these areas have been grandfathered into the zoning code
That's a
and are some
crazy
of the
looking
most
building.
desirable and expensive neighborhoods in the whole city. But despite their appeal, new neighborhoods will never be built this way again. Beyond the liveliness that
Hmm.
these places bring to a neighborhood, the fundamental issue here is walkability. If there's a local shop, grocer, restaurant, or pub in your neighborhood, then you can walk there. But if your residential neighborhood is separated from every other use,
And that's why there's so many bikes in Amsterdam, because you don't really have to go far for anything. So like that, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
then it means you have to drive to do anything you want to do, and so does
Right.
everyone else.
And it just makes more pollution.
That results in a lot of car traffic because it doesn't matter if you're driving across town or just need to buy a bag of milk. You have to get in your car. And yes, where I'm from, we buy milk in bags and we like it that way.
What do you mean you buy milk in bags? We don't do that here in America, like USA.
In
Uh,
bags and we like it that way. But once you've gone to the trouble of getting into your
How are you gonna try to show somebody something and then fail?
car, you're much less likely to drive to several small shops, meaning most people skip local businesses and drive to the power center with a giant parking lot. Shops in walkable areas are more likely to be run by local entrepreneurs who contribute significantly to the local economy in a way that big box stores do not. And I will talk about that in a future video about the twisted economics of big box stores in North America. By comparison, a
Hmm.
walkable neighborhood has enough people
Wonder what he means by the twisted economics.
living within walking distance for small shops to stay in business, and parking lots are not required, making space available for patios, parkettes, and places for people to live. Thankfully,
Hmm.
there is a realization in
Is
many
that a UFO in the background? Hold on, look at the sky
for
right
people
there.
to live.
Or a blimp? Oh, the airplane taking
Thankfully,
off?
there is a realization in many US and Canadian cities that Euclidean zoning has gone too far.
Yeah.
You'll hear urban planners talk about mixed use development, which is what the rest of the world calls the way you build things. However,
It's just the way you do it.
I find these developments are still highly localized, such as at a transit hub or along an arterial road. I rarely hear about bringing back low impact commercial spaces, like restaurants, cafes, and retail shops, into existing residential neighborhoods. And far too much of the area in North American cities is still zoned as exclusively R1 single family homes. In Toronto, for example, this
Single
is called
family,
the
huh?
Yellow Belt, because despite downtown Toronto being one of the most urbanized areas in North America, it is still surrounded by a sea of yellow on zoning maps, where only single family homes can be built.
So so in between that then, is that where like the commercial buildings are? Like where all the white is?
So I'm happy to live again in a place with sane zoning laws that allow beautiful urban environments like this to exist. Places that reduce car traffic, support local
Right.
entrepreneurs, encourage diverse retail, and promote walkability.
I mean, it looks cooler too.
Because honestly, I have absolutely no interest in going back to live in a place like
It looks more organic when it's just like kind of zigzag yellow with the place instead of a grid pattern. You know what I mean? It just kind of flows with the earth a little bit better.
this. And speaking of supporting small businesses, I've had several people ask if they can contribute to the future of Not Just Bikes. So last
Coffee
week I set up
shop
a
with
Patreon
pill
account.
on.
If you'd like to support the channel, check out patreon.com/notjustbikes or
Go
click
check
on the
out the
link below.
Patreon, guys.
As for me, I've got to get some milk. I may not be able to buy it in bags anymore, but at least I can walk there.
Yeah, see the bag thing though, that's weird to me too. That's not here in USA. All right, yeah. Well, anyways, there you have it. I will see you guys in the next video.